Hello. Welcome back to, Lords of Middle-earth Tournament 2023. This is Game 3 of the quarterfinals between myself and Waldo. So as you can see from the mess up here, bidding happened, because that's, what you do to balance it for Game 3. We went back and forth a couple times, and in the end he accepted 5 tokens to play Free People. So the settlements here are his Muster a Nation Down the Track tokens, and then the Dwarven Ring is his second draw card token. So he's doing the fairly standard Gandalf Narya out, Alt Gimli to Erebor. So of course I'm happy to get a muster token, but Gimli does make the do line a lot less appetizing anyway as a shadow player. So pretty okay cards for me turn 1, and okay cards for him turn 1. So yeah, off we go. So I put in one eye and roll no more, and he rolls that. So that is the kind of roll where if I was the Free Peoples, that's where I go vent for victory points. Geez, man, it doesn't get worse than that. Not only one eye, so against 0 movement, but also I have all these beautiful musters for turn 1, so I could just easily get Saruman and Gothmog and do some army movement. It's just a fantastic start for a slow fellowship and a strong shadow military. So, yeah, I think the only thing I could ask for is maybe no H there, and for the Gandalf die to be an I, but this has got to be in the 0.01 something percent of worst possible outcomes for Free Peoples. So anyway, I use the token to bring Isengard down to war, bring Sauron down to war. He draws a card, which is reasonable. You got 5 tokens, so you might as well start using them. So he draws and gets Fear Fire Foes. I get out Gothmog. He draws another strategy card. I move armies. He uses a ring to move once. I think that makes sense because not only is it very unlikely you're going to get hit, only 1 in 6, but also then you get the Gandalf Narya die next turn, whereas if you don't move, then you wouldn't get that die. So 5, so I don't hit, but almost hit. Out comes Saruman. He musters the elves closer to war. I continue moving my army. He plays Horn of Gondor. Yeah, because I guess you can't... you could play Riders of Theoden here instead. That's another option. But you definitely wouldn't want to draw a card then, because then you're already throwing out cards for turn 2. And I keep moving armies along. And he musters the elves closer to war again. So here we are for turn 2. Yeah, okay, so one eye in, and again, no eyes rolled, but this time he does get 3 movement anyway, so that's, now he's at -1 overall for movement, so that's not that bad, but it's still, I think still overall the 2 turns are more favorable for Shadow player at this point anyway. So I draw a strategy card. I muster in North Dunland. Fellowship moves, and again it's a 5, so he says haircuts because that's 2 times in a row where it's a 5, so almost a hit. Gandalf the Bald, haha. Okay, so I use, I use the ring to move armies first here because I'm specifically hoping to blow up Lorien this turn. And I could have mustered another elite, but I was kind of thinking I'd like to save that muster for if the Fellowship gets revealed, then I can get the Chief. And also, with that 1 extra warg, this goes up to a full 10 units here anyway. You might also think, I could have gotten an elite at the same time as getting the Balrog and Moria, but then I would push the elves to war and make it easy for him to muster 2 elites in there. Whereas, as it is, if he, he can get Galadriel after I've got my army in Dimril Dale, and then the army will be besieged, and then he can, put another elite in Lorien. But if I brought in the Balrog, then he could straight up get 2 elites with these 2 musters instead of, instead of just 1 with Galadriel. So Fellowship moves, and yeah, another close shave for them here. So I get together in Dimril Dale. He brings in Galadriel. Then I move around leadership. He passes, and then I besiege Lorien. So we have a little bit of a mix-up here, but I gotta show you the dice here first anyway. So what happens... Well, okay, so he goes ahead, musters in Lorien, and then I attack. And what happened here was what do you call it? I tried to view the shadow hand at the same time as he tried to view the free people's hand. So it worked that I viewed the shadow hand, but I didn't see that. Like it didn't show up as text here. So then I unviewed hand again and viewed hand again. So these cards here, I changed the deck so that you could see at least the first two I got, but these three aren't actually the cards I picked up. I picked up different cards when we were playing. So I'm playing Great Host from Many Kings to the Service of Mordor right now, but you can't see that card here. So anyway, we're about to have that, and then my card's going to show up as blank to him anyway. So then we tried to exit and restart it, and it's a big mess anyway. But yeah, we'll be back in there. So that shows Mooma kill there, but that was actually Great Host. We got that fixed. Now we roll the dice here, and then I'll show you. Anyway, so I roll 2 6s. Now then he tells me that he can't see the card. But he finishes rolling back. He gets only 1 hit, so that's definitely lucky for me anyway. I'm getting the 2 hits and the 1 for Great Host, so there we go. And I bizarrely enough, I have to go load a different save file, so I'll be right back. Hi again. So we're back. Yeah, so this is the continuation. These are the cards I actually had, so I just pressed and killed. So yeah, there's Many Kings to the Service of Mordor / Great Host and his Swords and Eriador. So the actual other cards I had were Orc Patrol and Horde from the East. So anyway, I think it was specifically having 2 Deadly Strifes in hand was part of what incentivized me to try to blow up Lorien this turn, because, yeah, like specifically with 2 elites so I could press, then I could open with Great Host and then play Deadly Strife. So that felt like pretty good odds of being able to finish Lorien to me. So okay, so I press, and then he plays Confusion, I play Deadly Strife, and I roll 3 hits, and blessedly no 1s, and then 1 more hit. So 4 hits is a bit on the lucky side. He gets 3 hits back, but obviously I'm quite happy with the exchange overall. And then the Fellowship moves again, and they're hit, and it's an eye. So very good timing of killing Galadriel there, so she couldn't, delete this eye and try again. So Fellowship gets revealed through Moria, and then he pulls a 3. And he thought for a bit and ends up choosing to use Horn of Gondor and keep it as corruption, which I can understand because, like, having just lost Galadriel, if he also lost Gandalf, then he wouldn't have any keeper dice for next turn, and that feels bad. At the same time, I think I would have killed Gandalf here just to, like Saruman is in play already, so you can get Gandalf the White next turn if you roll a Will of the West then. And then also, then you can switch to Strider to hide here, and then you don't feel bad about having Gandalf stuffed to the back. So that's what I would have done. I can understand wanting to have the keeper die, though. So out comes the chief. And, right, then he uses one of his mustering downs to bring Rohan closer, which is a good read on his part. I was definitely thinking a favorite strategy of mine, if there is Gimli or one of the other companions defending the Dew line, is to enjoy having a token and enjoy a weaker Fellowship and go for Lorien and then the South 8 points. If you can blow up Lorien earlier. Sometimes that's just not even an option. So sometimes I look for those 2 points elsewhere and then go after the South 8. Because if you don't have to yeet this army all the way off to the Dew line, this army plus this army plus this army can be really strong for destroying Gondor and sometimes sending some help over to Rohan. So yeah, him seeing that, like, I still have a bit of an army here in Lorien, and Helm's Deep is still a bit of an open target, so mustering Rohan down ahead of time is a good choice. Okay, so yeah, the dice are a little wonky there too. Gothmog hadn't rolled an eye before. Anyway. So he switches to Strider so he can hide, that makes sense. And I roll another fantastic result of no eyes and tons of attacks here. Yeah, so Rohan is on the menu here for sure. He gets a decent roll too, so, if he had killed Gandalf, then he could have gotten Gandalf the White, but of course that, then he would only have 1 movement this turn for the Fellowship, so. Anyway, so I play Lore. It feels really good just having a card in the way to block wind from the west. Yeah, which he doesn't have at the moment, but I didn't know that, of course. And you never know, sometimes it's useful. And of course I get to redraw since I have the Chief sitting on the Fellowship right now. Yeah, so off I go towards Rohan. He plays Riders of Theoden. That's a nice card to have for moments like this for sure. I mean, Aemir would be even better, but still nice. Yeah, at this point, yeah, the Shadow was a good call. Yeah, it's hard to say in hindsight. You know, sometimes you get games like this where it's just, like, it feels free for the Shadow player. And other times, like both Game 1 and Game 2, Free People's won for us in our series. So it certainly isn't that one-sided. And that was with no tokens to help at all. Okay, so he used another token to muster Gondor down, which I guess is in case I attack Osgiliath, and he could muster in Minas Tirith. So I walk into Umbar and into West Demnet. Right, so then he thinks about using a ring and doesn't. Instead, he uses the Will of the West to move to Druiden and Fords of Isen, which I was a little surprised about. I think if I was going to do it, I would have used that Will of the West to move this army into West Demnet first and move all of that army back, and that way you can, you know, hopefully get all this army into Helm's Deep. Granted, you would have to spend a ring or a character die as well to get those troops into Helm's Deep, but like if you're going to use that Will of the West to move armies instead of the Fellowship, I'd rather have done it like that. Personally, but it's hard. There's so many decisions to make. I'm definitely not right all the time. Okay, so he passes. I attack Helm's Deep. Because Rohan is only one step away from war, if I attacked Fords of Isen first, then Rohan would be at war and he could muster in Helm's Deep. So I decided to besiege Helm's Deep first. I leave one arc behind in West Demnet just to make, you know, if he was going to do some shenanigans and try to like move over here and play help unlooked for, now that's at least a little more difficult for him. Okay, so he hides the Fellowship, and I attack Fords of Isen for more thank to bring in reinforcements. I get my one hit, he gets one hit back. Fellowship moves and gets hit and revealed. So that's just, that's a frustrating luck. Like when the Shadow only rolls one eye, and I get all these attacks, and you also get hit on the Fellowship, that just doesn't feel fair. So yeah, so he takes his one corruption and is revealed. I move on to Helm's Deep. He brings in Elrond. Now I attack Helm's Deep. And I'm playing We Come to Kill, which kind of feels like overkill, but at the same time, if I don't just happen to roll 2 6s, then like having to press down all these elites would make this army a lot weaker for fighting at Edoras later, right? So I'm kind of trying to preserve that strength. So I get one hit, he gets 2 hits back, because, I don't know, the Rohirrim are just jerks like that. So then my post-roll, I miss all the 4 of those too. Like that should have gotten 1 hit, you know? So that was frustrating. So I press, no card. I do get a hit this time. He gets 1 hit back. So, yeah, kudos to the Rohirrim. They significantly weakened him there. The army there. That was a 4-4 going in. So, or not. Was it even more than that? Let's see. He did 2. I don't remember. Oh, well. Moving on. So, Nazgul Strike, Shadow Lengthens, both good cards. He gets Círdan and House of the Stewards, also 2 good cards. So 1 eye in, and again, no more rolled. So yeah, that's just fantastic stuff for me anyway. So he musters up in Rohan a bit, which makes sense. I move towards Edoras and towards West Hirondor. So seeing, you know, that I have the musters to get the Southrons to war, and I have the attacks to get to Dol Amroth, and that he only had 2 musters this turn, and he's already used 1 in Rohan, makes me, you know, pretty excited to go get Dol Amroth. So, like, he could still muster in there once, but not twice, anyway. So that feels pretty good. Of course, he can also use that muster in Rohan, which is also a nuisance to me, but then there's no elites in Dol Amroth. So he musters in Rohan again. I muster the Southrons down. He hides the Fellowship. I muster the Southrons down again. He moves the Fellowship, and they are hit again, and it's Smeagol, which I think is actually, I say well could be worse, and I meant it at the time, but I remember then looking at my cards and realizing that I think that was actually possibly the worst case scenario, because now I can play Nazgul Search, and I get to pivot my Nazgul leadership down to go getting Dol Amroth, and I reveal the Fellowship, and he can't use Strider's ability to hide anymore. Granted, he has a character die here anyway, so like he can hide with that, but that's still costing him a movement. Like he would have been able to move right now if I hadn't played Nazgul Search here. So, yeah. So I send the chief down to West Hirondor because, like the Fellowship's about to get revealed away from this spot anyway, so might as well have the chief there. That way, if Black Captain commands or Gron shows up, then I can use those or Fear Their Masters. Or if I decide to switch him to the Black Captain, then he's on the front lines and ready to go. So. So I attack Pelargir, no card. I get my 6. He gets a hit back. The little guys did a lot of punching back in this game. They were feisty. Okay, so I move troops along towards Dol Amroth. He passes again. I besiege Dol Amroth. And then he, poor fella, ends up using a ring on his character die so he could play Cure to the Ships, which I think is the right call here. That's a very sad choice to have to make, but at the same time, yeah, it would feel bad giving that stronghold away for free when you had that card that could put 2 elites in there, especially when it really doesn't look like I'm going after the elves anywhere else. Like, you know, normally if you were going to muster them in Woodland Realm or Rivendell anyway, then letting Dol Amroth fall wouldn't hurt so much, but yeah, anyway. So now I attack Druiden Forest. Right, because since I got a ring, I realized I can also besiege Minas Tirith this turn before he can muster any elites in there. So, which wasn't the plan. Originally, I was going to blow up Dol Amroth, but then he played Círdan's Ships, so now that's not really as much of a, you know, juicy run and get it right now kind of stronghold. So I get the guy in Druiden. He also gets 1 hit back because, yeah, little guys be feisty. Yeah, and then I use the ring to besiege Minas Tirith, and I leave a regular behind in Druiden just because I'm not sure what's going to happen in Rohan. Blocking Paths of the Woses feels good, and also, like, if this army ends up retreating this way, I don't want them to be able to retreat right next to me, like, for free and then play Help Unlooked For. So. Especially when things are messy and dicey, just having, like, a little net of 1 regular spread out all over the place can be really helpful. Okay, so I pick up Orcs Multiplying and Isildur's Bane. I decided to chuck Orcs Multiplying again. Like, I could play it there and maybe go after the Dew Line. I'm pretty committed to, like, these as my points at this point, though. I could have also kept it and then used Shadow Lengthens here to bring that down to Rohan as reinforcements, but honestly, using a muster to put 3 regulars there, and 3 regulars here, which are definitely never doing anything, like, is that really that much better than just mustering an elite? Like, elite is almost as good as 3 regulars, possibly better in some situations. So I decided I'd rather have Isildur's Bane and the Red Tau here because, you know, decent combat card, flexible for corruption if that becomes necessary anyway. Isildur's Bane is also extra nice against Smeagol because there's a chance that I can reveal him again with one of these, and he's not allowed to get rid of Smeagol, so that is also costing him a movement that way. So anyway, 1 eye in, 2 rolled this time, which is a bummer. I finally rolled eyes. It's turn 5. Don't believe the little tracker up there because this was a new log. Turn 1 didn't get registered. This is actually turn 5. And also on a turn where, because he has Smeagol and not Strider, if he'd had Strider, he could have used one of these dice to hide, but he's stuck with Smeagol, so his 1 movement is stuck being spent hiding. So he musters in Rohan and in Lasarnik, which are good choices. I attack Lasarnik from Gothmog. I get a hit. The little guys finally don't punch back for once. That's neat. Then I attack Osgiliath. I don't get a hit. He does. Because, yeah, they feisty. So I press and safely block Paths of the Woses, so I rest a little bit easier that way. I did, you know, make the choice that he could have Umbar this turn if he wanted. But I felt reasonably safe from a Free People's military win. Like, he could... Let's see, the elves are at war, so with this hybrid die, he could, you know, move to Old Forest Road and take Umbar at the same time, but, like, I do have 2 musters here, and this army isn't that strong, so you know, Dol Guldur is reasonably safe. And he'd only have 1 more movement to get closer anyway. Like, I guess he could use Elrond's ring to pull it back, but then he's only besieging Dol Guldur this time, so then I have, you know, plenty of time to, like, bring troops over to save it, or go and retake Umbar, so. And if he does that, then I get the alternate mouth early, too. So that would just, you know, help a lot. So he doesn't choose to take Umbar, which I think is correct. All the same, I choose to move a regular over there to defend it, just in case, you know, like, what if I do have an apocalyptically terrible roll next turn? You know, like, good games that were in the bag have been thrown away before. It's very easy. Okay, so he uses a token to muster in the north closer to war. I muster in South Rune. He musters the dwarves closer to war with Gimli's ability. I muster in South Rune again. He plays the Wisdom of Elrond to move the north down. So this was, I was pleased with this. It really looks like I'm going for the Dew Line with that. But my actual plan here is to bring this army together and send it off to help finish off Minas Tirith. And bring these, with Shadow Lengthens, also bring the 10 regulars, well, 9 of them anyway, to Osgiliath. So the plan is they're going to go help finish off Rohan and avoid any shenanigans. Then these guys will hopefully get to Minas Tirith in time to be strong enough to finish off that. So Fellowship hides. He uses Elrond's ring. I almost did something and then realized, wait, I can just pass. I don't need to rush. So, yeah. So he thinks about it, then the Fellowship moves, and they're safe for once. Turns out they just needed 3 dice to be rolled instead of 1 for them to get missed. Okay, so armies move along, and he musters up Mord and Rohan. Okay, so then I had a tough choice here about which card to throw out, because I really don't like throwing out red tiles, but just all the rest of these cards are pretty useful. So I ended up chucking out the red 3. Simply because, like, with the health that they're in right now, I'm not going to kill them with corruption, and the 3 is better than the 1R for that, but the 1R reveals them and slows them down, and that is more useful to me than the red 3, so that's why I chose the 3 to throw out. Okay, Fellowship declares forward. I think about it for a bit. I decide to send the Chief after them. So 1 eye in, no more rolled, and he gets 2 movement, which is mega frustrating for him, because, like, if he had even 1 ring, he'd have a good shot at Mordor this turn, but he's been stuck spending all of them already. Yeah, it's tough choices. Yeah. In theory, if he'd had 3 rings for the Elven Kings, he could have played that, and if he'd got Elrond's ring back, then he could make it to Mordor this turn. But both the other rings are already in the casualties, and you have to pick those first. So you'd have to get 3 hits to get Elrond's ring back. So good luck with that. Fellowship moves, and they're safe. I play Sealder's Bane here just, for hopeful reroll against, reveal against Smeagol here, but I pull an eye, so it does nothing. Fellowship moves again. They're hit, and it's a 3. So away goes Smeagol. And now we can bring Strider back. I muster up a couple Nazgul first, because I'm planning on playing Nazgul Strike here, so as to move Nazgul leadership to Druiden Forest and then go finish off Edoras, hopefully, anyway. Yeah, so here come the Nazgul. I'm not sure if I needed to muster a couple more Nazgul, but it feels better that way, anyway, just like having extra leadership around. So I hit them, and I pull another eye, so there's the 1 reveal. So the reveals hurt a lot less now that he's got Strider back, but I don't know. It still feels nice, just putting damage down, So I use that muster to switch to the Black Captain, because Gothmog's die is already gone, and all the Free People's Nations are already active, so... and I definitely would rather have the combat card redraws for the fight I'm about to go through than against the Fellowship for, like, another turn, So he musters up in Rohan some more. I attack Fold. And I cycle Fear of Their Masters here simply because I'm really hoping for, like, Dread and Despair. Like, that would be a really strong card. And I don't want to play this against the full actual army here. So I, get my hits. Unfortunately, he rolls a 6, so he gets an extra hit from that. So that hurts a little bit. And I get Worn with Sorrow and Toil, which is, it's an ally card. I still want a Dread and Despair. So he musters in Edoras again. So it's a good army here. That is 4 regulars, 5 elites, 1 leadership. So the leadership is a bit weak, but that's like a lot of hit points right there, So I attack Edoras from the Witch King first, which is to cycle cards and hopefully weaken them a bit. Then I'm going to reunite what's left of this army with the army in West Temnet, because you can only have 10 units in one spot, so I can't effectively use all these units in the same battle. And then hopefully finish them off this turn. Okay, so I'm cycling Foul Stench against Shield Wall. I roll 1 hit exactly, which is great for demoralizing points against a Shield Wall. And he rolls 3 hits, so that is a grim start for the Witch King. So he downgrades an elite. I don't press, simply because, there are Ent cards out there, and there are sudden strikes and confusions out there. So I maybe could have pressed and whittled him down a little bit more, but... It's just not worth the risk of losing the Witch King. Besides, I only have 1 regular extra now. I can fit 4 more regulars in West Temnet. So, so I carry on with my plan. I get the army together in West Temnet, bring the Oliphants closer to Minas Tirith. And now I attack Edoras again. I'm not sure which card I'm playing. Right, Orc Patrol here. And I'm really glad I did, because I rolled 3 5s. So if I hadn't played that, that would be, you know, not 3 hits. And he only gets 2, so that's very good news for me. And of course, I get to keep cycling character cards for hopefully Cruel Weather, maybe Dread and Despair. I get the Gates Are Closed, though, so that's kind of meh redraws that I got here. Like 2 Words of Powers that are useless to me. But oh well, can't get everything. So I press, he plays Shield Wall, and I roll 4 hits, so I still get 3, even after the Shield Wall, and he only gets 1 back. So that's a pretty depressing result for him, anyway. Like, he did a really great job mustering up this big army, which could have caused so many problems, but the dice just suck. So, yeah, what can you do? So I press, I get 2 hits, he gets 2 hits. I press, 3 hits, against is also 3 hits. So he is, like, weakening this army significantly. Like, I had elites to maybe head off to Minas Tirith to do more, but now they're not. So 2 hits and 2 hits. Yeah, so I take Edoras, and, yeah, there are not many people left alive in Rohan after all is said and done. So now he gets win from the west, but I already have these 2 cards in the way, so it's not very powerful for him. So then I have to choose which cards to chuck here. I'm pretty sure I chuck Morgul Wound and Gates Are Closed, because... definitely not going for a corruption victory, and both of these are pretty useless for military. So. Yeah, chuck those 2. The 1 eye in, 3 more rolled this time, which is unfortunate, but Elrond helps me out a little bit because he rolls an eye, and I do have Lore of the Elven Rings in play, so it works on rolled eyes. So I get to take one of those eyes out and turn it into a hybrid die. It doesn't work on allocated eyes. Like, if you chose to put it in, you can't get it out. But if you rolled it and then lore happens, then you can do that. So we talk about that for a bit, because it's a bit of a weird rule. I only learned it a little while ago, so a lot of people don't know that rule. Anyway, so he moves the Fellowship right away, which is absolutely the right call in case I have Day Without Dawn. So he does get hit, but he doesn't get revealed, so that's bad luck for him. Yeah, we'd definitely rather get revealed so that you're not too scared. Because if I did have Day Without Dawn and Cruel Weather, then I could guaranteed stop him from Mordor this turn, unless he had 3 rings for the Elven Kings anyway. So he takes a random and gets a Hobbit, and it's the alternate Hobbit, so he doesn't get to go off and join a fight anywhere. Not that there's much he could join. He could go hang out with this guy in West Horondor. That's all he could have done. So I move leadership around to Dol Amroth. My hope is to cycle character cards and maybe draw into Cruel Weather. And also hopefully take Dol Amroth at the same time. So coming after Dol Amroth with Foul Thing from the Deep. Like, maybe I could have saved it and, like, tried to kill Strider with it. That would have been a reasonable choice too, but it was my only good combat card for to play herb cycling here. So anyway. So I get 3 hits, which is pretty good. He also gets 3, thanks to no quarter. So I don't press because I don't quite feel like I'm strong enough to take it out in one shot right now, and I want to keep cycling anyway. So cycling the Captain of Despair, which is okay. Maybe I could have played this and tried to, like, do corruption things in Mordor, like, because I would make eyes do a lot of damage. But I feel like since I don't have that much more hit points than him in Dol Amroth, it's actually pretty useful there. Because I get to forfeit the Witch King's leadership and make him roll only 2 dice against me. And I get to keep cycling character cards this way. So I get 2 hits, which is, again, pretty lucky, and he gets none. So that's nice. So now I choose to press since he's down to 2 regulars, and I do still have a Deadly Strife in hand here. I thought about using one of these Relentless Assaults and saving Deadly Strife for Minas Tirith, but it's like with all these hit points on the horizon, the Relentless Assaults aren't too, you know, they're like pretty easy to use against Minas Tirith, where if I used Relentless Assault here and I whiff, then this siege is kind of screwed, like especially if he picks up Imra Hill next turn. So I decided to just use Deadly Strife and make it safe here anyway. And I'm glad I did. Turns out I could have played They Are Terrible, and that would have won with 2 hits, but yeah, Deadly Strife works. So up to 8 points, feels good. He uses a token here, which I think makes perfect sense. Power 2, great. That's pretty useless at this point. Just because then he gets to go last, so that if I do have Cruel Weather, then he can move again, and if I don't have Cruel Weather, he doesn't have to move again to be safe from it. So I play Worn with Sorrow and Toil because You know, even if I do get Cruel Weather, I can't actually stop him for another turn. So, and you never know. With Worn with Sorrow and Toil, maybe you get something good out of their hand, like Mithril Coat and Sting. That can make a big difference. And he still has 1, 2, 3, at least 4 companions in the way that could be killed. Maybe 5 if the other one there is also an alternate Hobbit. Okay, he plays Phial of Galadriel. I think that makes sense. I play Give It To Us. He musters the North down to war. He could have also attacked Pelargir. I think I would have done that. Like, it's unlikely that you win. Like, it's slightly more likely that the Shadow will win, or that they'll both kill each other and I get to keep control of Pelargir. But you never know. You know, if you do take it back, you're slowing down the Shadow player. So that helps. So I move troops towards Minas Tirith, and he plays Wizard's Staff, which is gangster. Having Wizard's Staff in Mordor is so cool. Usually Gandalf's dead by now, so usually you don't get to use it, but there he is. He's in the Fellowship, and he doesn't have to be the guide. He just has to be in the Fellowship, so there it is. That is pretty cool. So off we go to next turn. So it is pretty much impossible. Again, he'd need to like play 3 rings for the Elven Kings and get back Elrond's die to be able to dunk in one turn, because he only has 4 dice and Elrond's die can't roll a character die. So it's still, you know, extremely unlikely he could dunk in one turn. All I got to do is blow up Minas Tirith and keep all my other points. Yeah, and that's another thing I like about going after Lorien in the South 8 is that they're all very far away. Like, the Dew Line and Rivendell are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they're 5 regions away from Lorien, so it's just very difficult for the Free Peoples to come and liberate it if you do manage to conquer these 10 points. So, of course, the Fellowship goes in. Yeah, so the eyes and the special tiles go into the hunt pool. It's a decent hunt pool. It's not, like, you've seen better, you've seen worse anyway. So I roll 2 more eyes, and he gets a perfectly nice roll like that. So he starts by moving right away, which I think makes sense, and uses Wizard Staff to block the draw. Like, that's so cool, just for free, blocking Wizard Staff. That's just really cool. Like blocking a hunt draw in Mordor. Like, I've almost never seen that. So I move my troops to Pelargir and to Osgiliath to, you know, defend, because he has a hybrid die in case he does feel like attacking Pelargir there. Now that's went from somewhat unlikely to extremely unlikely. So he draws a strategy card, hoping for Guards of the Citadel, probably. Chuck's House of the Stewards, that makes sense. So I bring in the alternate mouth specifically because he's really good at pressing sieges. He allows you to press it once for free, and I just need to blow up this one stronghold, so he's, yeah, unquestionably the better choice at this moment anyway. And I can, you know, bring him in. So. Fellowship moves, and it's an eye, so that does hurt a little bit, but he has Gandalf to kill still, so he's fine. So I use Ward with Sword and Toil, and that takes a blue tile. Smeagol helps Nice Master. And of course, then by killing Gandalf, he gets to have Strider around, so that helps too. Okay, so I move troops into place on Minas Tirith. Fellowship hides. I use Elrond's Ring to move minions in Nazgul so that I have the alternate mouth and the Witch King ready to go against Minas Tirith here. He moves again and gets Phial, so holy moly, I'm really glad I didn't try anything corruption-wise, because that's a great way to sink all your corruption hopes and dreams. So for what was such a terrible start with that 0 movement against 1 eye turn 1, this is pretty darn close. Like, it's definitely in my favor right now to finish off Minas Tirith, but if my dice just suck and I don't finish off Minas Tirith, he almost definitely wins next turn. He just needs to roll 2 movement on 4 dice, which is entirely average. Yeah, because, like, all the way up to step 3 in 1 turn like that, that's pretty good. Okay, so after Minas Tirith, Great Host against Valor. Feels good to start with Great Host here because I can definitely make it proc. Okay, so I get 2 hits, which is, again, pretty lucky. He also gets 2 hits, so a +1 for my Great Host. Press again, slap down a Desperate Battle against the No Quarter, and I get my 2 hits. So yeah, that's that. Minas Tirith didn't make too great of a show of it. None of the strongholds did, really. Yeah, I had pretty good luck on all 4 sieges. Like, all the other battles, like all the little scrappy ones went well for Free Peoples. Like, you can see in the statistics here, +8 on 5s for him. Used it up on all the small battles that only kind of sort of mattered. Yeah, that's how the luck goes, so. -4 on 6s for me, which seems a bit odd. I feel like my luck was better than that. Also, only +2 on attacking dice. That also seems odd to me. I felt like it was better than that, but I guess this doesn't include the first 2 turns, really. So that's something weird. I also had good luck with Gothmog. Gothmog rolled 3 army movements for me, eliminating himself on the 3rd one. Yeah, so that's game 3. It was pretty well played on his part. Like I mentioned a couple points where I disagreed with him, but it was good token usage, though. It's hard to win with action dice like that. If you have a slow start with the Fellowship, like at least if the Shadow also has a slow start, or at least if you get to Crown Aragorn or something, then there's hope. But when you're accomplished, there's nothing to do with your dice. It just sucks. So yeah, no, happy to be moving on to the semifinals, because if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know I have such a great track record in the semifinals. This will be my 4th time making it to a semifinals, and I have yet to win and make it to the finals. I have a lot of experience in consolation matches for 3rd place anyway, and even more experience at losing them. So we'll see if the curse strikes again this year. It was also fun to set a record. I think 5 tokens is the highest bid there's ever been in Lords. Finale and Roy Subs recently did 12 tokens with Warriors, but obviously that's a very different kettle of fish. And I think 6 tokens is still the record in base, between me and Safe by Him. So that's always fun, setting a new little record like that. It's also interesting, the side that gets a crazy amount of tokens has yet to win. Like, no side has ever won with more than 3 tokens, as far as I'm aware, anyway. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments anyway, but it's just interesting, you know. Like obviously that's only a handful of games, and luck is a very real thing, but it's just funny to me anyway. Yeah, so in the next one I'll be against either Ari or Sunil, whoever wins game 3 in that matchup. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.